Hello and welcome everyone for our monthly EDGE webinar. We have a great presentation today, so I hope that you will have a lot of questions for us. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few things very briefly. To turn on your closed captions, you may do so by going to the bottom panel of Zoom. This webinar is recorded and it will be available on our ACRO website shortly. And we encourage you, like I said, to engage in the presentation. You can do so by using the Q&A feature. Please ask any questions that you have for the panelists using the QA. And also we have the chat feature available as well. And if you have any questions, you can also use the chat feature for the panelists. Without any further ado, I would like to hand it over to Julia. Thank you, Julia.
Thanks so much, Belma. Welcome, everybody. March 21st, 2024, EDGE User Group, March 21st. What an auspicious date. It is the birthday of my eldest child, and other famous birthdays today are Matthew Broderick, who is 62, and shocking, Timothy Dalton is 78. So just a couple of other birthdays this day for those of you who are celebrating a birthday around this time. The Aries sign. If anybody's celebrating a birthday in our audience today, give us a chat and let us know, and happy birthday to you. It is also the start of what they call in March the worm moon. The worm moon is named such because it's when spring is upon us. The earth is around here is starting to warm up, and that includes earthworms. So it is the worm moon. So you can dazzle all your friends with that bit of trivia. Let's go to the next slide so I can bring in and introduce to you our International Education Standards Council. This wonderful group of experts and volunteers help us to review, research, and then provide advice to EDGE. And they are chaired by Jasmine Saidi Cunair, and she is also the founder and president of ACEI. We are also joined today not only by Jasmine, but by Shelby Kearley, Dave Mahaly, Nancy Katz, who else? Robert Watkins is on here today. So thank you all for being here, and we have a lot to cover. So let's go on to our next slide and start our poll. You will see here on this who composes the IESC. And so these people do represent public and private institutions and do a great job for us. So here's our poll that we run every EDGE user group, and there's a couple of questions here. We want to know, one, are you an EDGE subscriber? And we want to know whether or not this is your first user group. I'm sure many of you have been here before, but we might have a few first timers. And then finally, what segment do you represent? Are you institutional staff, are part of an evaluation service, a government entity, or a law firm? So just take a few minutes to think about that and answer those questions. Do we have any chats? Did anybody tell us it was their birthday today? Oh, but we've got people from George Mason, Colorado, go Rams, NCAA tourney. That's right, Lois. Today is also the beginning of the men's NCAA tournament. The women's tournament begins tomorrow. Lots of excitement. Hope you all got your brackets in before they locked at noon today, Eastern time. And the games are underway. I know Michigan State and Mississippi State are currently playing. If anybody has a score update from that, I have not heard one. Fort Hays, I don't think you're in the tournament this year, but maybe another year. How are we doing on that poll? Let's go look and see what we've got. All right, 97% of you are an EDGE subscriber. We thank you and we appreciate that, and we will continue to try and always make EDGE the best it can possibly be for you as a resource. Is this your first EDGE user group? 20% said yes. Oh, welcome. We're glad you're here. That's 13 of you. And then as far as where you represent, we have, 88% of you are from an institution. We've got a couple of people from an evaluation service and one government related person. So thank you all. We're glad you're here. And without further ado, I am going to turn the agenda over to my good colleague, Drew Carlisle.
Thank you, Julia. Well, I didn't put it in the chat, but I am one of those people that has one of those birthdays coming up later on. It's the 26th. If anyone wants to send me anything, please don't. just send me all of your questions when you reach out to us. I'll be one of the people that's behind the scenes that's checking in whenever you have questions about content that's going on. But I want to talk about the content that we've updated this time. There's a lot that we're going to go over today. We've got updates in Iran's education system with the Cardani and the Karshanasi. Wanted to really do some clarification on those credentials. We have responded to some questions coming in about pre and post Bologna credentials, and have an example that we want to show you about how you can look forward to understanding some of those and how we're going to reflect them within Edge to make sure that you're going to be able to find the information you're looking for. We have it's pretty comprehensive. We've got credentials, we've got grading scales, we've got resources, we've got overviews, we've got a ladder that's posted up for the state of Palestine. There's a lot of information in there for anyone that is encountering students that are coming out of that education system. And we also want to highlight an alternate pathway for the Nigerian students that are taking that interim joint matriculation examination. I'm going to go ahead and share with some of you that you may have received some information from Edge in the recent days. If you've renewed your subscription, for those of you that are subscribers, we've set out a list of emails that are going to come through, and I'll show you what that email looked like later. But we want to be sure that you know how to navigate through Edge a little bit better. That's one of the things we're going to do at the end of the webinar today. But let's start with those latest content updates. I think we're going to go over to Jasmine so that we can talk about these updates for the Cardani.
Yes, thank you so much, Drew, and hello, everyone. First, I'd like to wish all our Iranian friends and people around the world who celebrate the first day of spring or the Persian New Year a happy Nowruz or Nowruz Mubarak. And also to our Jewish friends who will be celebrating Purim, a happy Purim. And to our Muslim friends who have been celebrating Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak. So we have a lot to celebrate this first day of spring, and lots of good information to share with you today at this Edge user group. The issue of the Cardani came up in an email exchange I received from a colleague at a university where they were concerned about whether those who have completed the Cardani program can continue on into a four-year Karshanasi degree program. So let me kind of just give you a primer on what these two credentials are. The Cardani is a post-secondary credential in Iran, and formerly it was named the Fog Diploma or Above Diploma. This credential is also loosely referred to as an associate degree, even in Iran. So sometimes when you see it translated, you may just see the word associate translated on the English version. Admission to a Cardani is either you complete your full 12th grade of high school, or in the past, before the 2013 reform, candidates could also enter having completed the 11-year secondary cycle. If you recall, in Iran, pre-2013, students who completed 11 years were also required to do a year called the pre-university year, which was a 12th grade, and that was the condition for admission to a university in Iran and sitting for the concours, or the national entrance exam. The Cardani does provide access to some four-year university degree programs known as the Karshanasi, and depending on what the Cardani covered, students can then apply to get into the Karshanasi program and be admitted to the third year. Again, it's contingent on what their Cardani was in. So if they studied, let's say, a Cardani in mathematics, and they want to get a Karshanasi in mathematics, this degree can be continuous, and they can be given access to the third year of a university four-year program. So that is common to see. So you may see a transcript for a Cardani showing this coursework for that program for 2 years, and followed by a transcript for the Karshanasi showing the third and fourth year. That means the first 2 years from the Cardani were accepted, and the student was able to continue into the third-year program. Those who came with the Cardani that was based on completion of 11th grade are required to complete some more credits to receive the Cardani. Typically, it seems to be between 80 to 88 credits, semester credits, and it may take them between 2.5 to 3 years. But those who are admitted on the basis of grade 12, they complete the Cardani in 2 years, and that entails about 68 to 78 credits. So that's the key elements of the Cardani that you will see updated and revised on EDGE Iran. Now, if we go to the Karshanasi credential advice, we have also expanded on that, explaining that someone can get in with the Cardani and be admitted into the third year and complete the Karshanasi. So if you have this sort of a pattern, your Karshanasi degree holder, whether they've done the 4 years at the university or the last 2 years, the credential is recognized as equivalent to a bachelor's degree because they were admitted with advanced standing credit based on prior studies that were validated by the Cardani. I think that's it, but if you have any questions, please post it in the Q&A, and I'll be happy to address that for you. But these two credentials have been updated on EDGE for you to reference. Thank you. And I see I'm up for the next credential. This is the Baha'i Institute for Higher Education. We continuously update the information we have on institutions, and we received some more fresh information from this institute itself, and the section has been fully updated. For those who may not be familiar, the Baha'is are a minority sect in Iran, and they have been religiously compromised. They don't have access to higher education in Iran for whatever reasons that they may exist. And unfortunately, it's also been written in the constitution. So this led to the formation of this private institution that was founded back in 1987. And literally, it was kind of an underground university. Well, we call it a university. It's an institute of higher ed. And professors met with students secretly in private homes and wherever that was a venue that they could meet and feel safe and secure, and they conducted the education. The programs have expanded, the faculty has expanded, and now with technology, education is being offered remotely, and there are faculty from around the world, from prestigious universities, who've made themselves available to conduct these academic programs for the Baha'i students who are maybe in Iran, and they are pursuing higher education through this venue. Of course, Baha'i Institute of Higher Ed does not have the recognition of the Ministry of Education for the reasons I cited. However, under the, if you visit the university's, the institute's website, they provide a list, and it's a very robust list of universities around the world, US, Canada, Western Europe, India, Australia, New Zealand, over about 100 universities, and the numbers grow, that are accepting degree holders from Baha'i Institute of Higher Ed. And they are offering bachelor degrees, master's degrees, and currently they even have one PhD program and a number of postgraduate certificates. And many prestigious universities are accepting these degree holders. So a very unique institution, contrary to what we always say, first assess the recognition status of the university to see if it's recognized by its education authorities. This is one that falls outside of that box, and we allow, we have provided you with information, as much information you need to kind of make that judgment call on this particular institution, given the restrictions that it has faced, but the approach that has been adopted by universities outside of Iran, accredited universities, and how they have treated degree holders. So it's case by case, but we hope that this information will assist you for any future candidates you may have from this institution. Thank you. And I'll pass this on to Robert.
Thank you, Jasmine. So good to see so many of you that I've known for a while, but also new friends. I sent a chat hello earlier at the beginning to Dr. Mehmet Ogun of George Mason, who attended our Acro Institute last month. And so we had met at an Acro annual meeting before, but we got to know each other better over that intensive 4-day period. He's a faculty member that has crossed over into our field. So it was fun getting to interact with him. Okay, as Drew said at the beginning, we had a query from the field, from you guys, about the Romanian Diploma de Licență. This person goes into Edge, Romania, looks for what they have in front of them, looks up the title and the description, and it's not what they have, because the only entry for this diploma in Romania, when that individual went in there to look, was the 4-year or more pre-Bologna version. And so I said, oh, okay, here's what happened. We've got some Bologna compliant degrees in some of the 49 signatories, but not all of them. Unfortunately, Romania happens to be one of those that doesn't have the Bologna compliant degrees in there yet. And so I said, let me take this on, and I'll bring something back next time. I did. It's pretty simple, straightforward. As you know, the new version, or the Bologna compliant model, is 3 years, 180 ECTS, and the master after that. So very much like the model of several of the Bologna compliant 3-year first cycle degrees. And so I threw something together and brought it to the group, and everybody was satisfied with that. The problem is, and it was Drew that immediately caught this, because remember, it's Drew and Bellman, all the others at Acro that oversee the formatting and the look and feel of Edge 3.0. And so what Drew wanted to do was, if two credentials that are different had the same name, it's one thing to put in an old pre-Bologna credential, like, say, the Licenciado in Spain, Licenciatura, versus the new Bologna compliant model, Graduado. That's easy. You need two separate entries. But when they're still called the same thing, that's when things get a little tricky. And Drew wanted to have those all on the same page, so that if a user goes in, clicks on Romania and then the Diploma de Licență, then they'll see that they're up to this point in time, they were 4 years or more, 4 to 6, medicine obviously being longer, or the newer model after that date, and we have the date in there for you, is going to be 3 years, 180 ECTS. So Drew came up with something a couple of days ago in terms of formatting. We all looked at it, and I liked it. I'll be honest with you, during the meeting when we discussed this, I wasn't sold until Drew roughed it out for us and showed it to us. And I said, yeah, that's going to work. That'll be fine. And so I don't think it's in there yet, but it's going to be very soon if it's not. And here's the funny part. Not a day after Drew and I agreed on the formatting and the wording of what this entry is going to look like, that covers both the pre-Bologna and the Bologna compliant version of this same titled degree, one of my evaluators comes in and says, I've got a file from Romania. I went into Edge, and they only talk about the 4 years or more ones that are a bachelor's degree, but this one's 3 years, and I don't think we want to call it a bachelor's degree. And I said, you're absolutely right. In fact, we're fixing this problem. It should be up there in a day or two. So that's
and Robert, it is up there
probably
now.
Oh, it's there now. Great, Drew. And so going forward, and here's the important part of this, not so much Romania and this credential as the formatting in future. When we come across pre and post, pre and Bologna compliant degrees that have the same title, we're probably going to have them on the same page with bifurcated credential advice if it's warranted. And so you'll be able to go to one place and find out what to do with older ones if you run across those, or the current ones, if you happen to have that on your desk. So that's just a little word about how we're going to handle this going forward. Drew, I don't know if we want to go back and look to make sure that we've done that in other instances. I guess the first one that comes to mind is Licence in France. The only problem is they're sort of a radically different situation, but we'll look into that. Let me just conclude by saying that in addition to the Romanian Licența, I'm going to look at the other Bologna compliant cycle degrees that are probably not in there either, and see about getting those in there as well. I'm thinking second cycle and third cycle with their ECTS, with the date they began and all of that. So be looking for that in future. But what Drew just said, looks like this particular credential is in there now.
And Robert, just to go off of that, it is it's going to have credentials that have the same name and also have that same entry requirements. When it's credentials that we just don't want you to get confused about, they'll be hyperlinked back and forth to one another within the author notes. But for us to be able to give this advice for the Licența in this case, it did have to have the same entry requirement because
good point on that.
Yeah,
thanks for bringing that out.
Yeah, if you could get in with different routes, that's where we're still going to split it into those two different credentials and do that hyperlink back and forth because we want to reflect what you could be achieving with that credential in system. Yeah. And with that, I guess we should go ahead and move on to the state of Palestine. Jasmine, you've done a lot of great research, and I'm going to let you speak on this.
Thank you. Thank you again, Drew. Yes, recognizing that EDGE did not have a profile on the education system of Palestine, we did kind of a fast and furious research endeavor in the past few recent months. And I'm happy to report that we have a comprehensive listing of the credentials, the profile of the education system, and grading scale currently posted. There's also a list of references, and we are thinking of adding additional references, kind of suggested readings in the ACRA Exchange section for the IESC, for EDGE, I mean. So I hope you will take some time after this call to visit EDGE and take a look at Palestine, and please share any sample records you may have because we're building that as we go along. I don't want to give a country profile overview right now, so the information is posted just recently. Thanks for doing that, Drew. So it's there, and hope that you will find this helpful. Thank you.
So something that I did just notice that I wanted to jump in right before you get to go, Shelby. The alerts within EDGE, I've noticed that they haven't been sending out and hasn't updated. So we've identified what the issue with that is. It's going to you're going to get a swarm of them coming in for the last 3-4 months, something like that. And then it should be operating appropriately moving forward. So just to let you know, normally when we do something that is impactful on a profile where there's new credential advice that's published, where there's a new grading scale that the IESC has worked on, when anything of that substantive nature is published within EDGE, we send out an alert, and it's supposed to go update there on the homepage, and anyone that has a bookmark for that particular country, that's where you're going to be able to get that notification the next time that you log in. We figured it out. Just wanted to highlight, now we know about it, and if any of you have been curious what's been going on, we now have it fixed. Shelby, over to you.
Yep. All right, thank you. We're gonna head down south a little bit and go to Nigeria. Someone had asked a question about the interim joint matriculation examination. This credential is a qualifying examination for entry into Nigerian universities. It is certified by the National Universities Commission and by the Joint Admission Matriculation Board as being equivalent to A-levels. So at many of the federal, state, and private universities, this particular credential allows for direct entry into the second year or the 200 level of bachelor degrees. And so we did some research and looked at lots of different university websites to confirm that that was in fact true. And it is. There are many universities that do allow students who have this particular alternative to the Joint Admission Matriculation Board examination to use this credential as direct entry into the second year. So for that reason, it's comparable to A-levels. So completion of up to a year of undergraduate study. And that should already be available in the Nigeria profile. But if you have any questions, please let us know.
So as we were thinking about what we really wanted to highlight today, there's a couple of things that are different. Typically, every month we have this free Acro Edge user group, and we meet on the third Thursday. That's why you're here with us. Next time, we're going to do it on the second Thursday. It's going to be the day after our annual meeting. There's all this celestial interference. And Julia, what's going on in Columbus?
Right. Trying to get back up here. Hi, sorry. So here's what's exciting. Our annual meeting will take place next month in Columbus, Ohio. So April 7th to 10th. And we're going to follow the EDGE user group up on Thursday, April 11th. So immediately after the annual meeting, and we'll be able to share some exciting things that happened there. But in reference to the annual meeting, there is still time to register. We have a lot of great sessions, at least 24 international specific sessions. And then we've listed down there in bullets sessions that are being presented by or with our IESC and ACRO members. So you just look at some of those: education in Pakistan, changes across the board, credential quandaries, developing policy to evaluate credentials from limited recognition states. Robert Watkins, along with Bill Paver, are doing how to research an EDGE profile. And from there, they'll come to you with ideas and questions of what else would you like to see in EDGE, and maybe you'd be interested in actually doing some work and writing a profile update. So definitely come. There's lots of sessions planned. We hope you can be there. And Columbus, just in honor of this annual meeting and your attendance, has planned a path of totality. There will be a total solar eclipse during the annual meeting on April 8th from about 1:50 to about 3:10 p.m. And Columbus happens to be in the 99% path of totality. So if you come, there will be lots of other exciting things to see and do in Columbus, in addition to the annual meeting, most especially that solar eclipse, but also to have a chance and an opportunity to see some of the great neighborhoods in the Columbus area. Ohio is my home state, and I did go to university in Columbus, so I will tell you the Short North and German Village are not to be missed. There's a river that runs right through the center of the city, and you can go visit that. And you can also have the great privilege of visiting the Ohio State University and getting a feel of what that's all about as well. So we hope you can join us in Columbus. Yes, and Todd, go Buckeyes. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about this slide. As of today, the Baden-Württemberg seminar application is open for 2024. The 2024 seminar will be in person. This year, it will be hosted in Stuttgart, Germany, by the University of Stuttgart. The application closing date is June 24th, so plan accordingly. This is really a great opportunity for people to get in there and learn about the German education system, comparability, and talk about exchange between institutions. But you will really get the entire breadth of German education and the various types of institutions. You will visit those institutions and talk to administrators there as well. Who should apply? Anybody that works within the international education, international admissions and records area. There's a QR code there. You can scan that and go right into the web page on the Baden-Württemberg seminar and put your application in from there. let's go on to the next slide. And I think I'm turning that over to you, Drew, correct?
Yeah, it's really, you could stay on, Jasmine could come on, Shelby could come on, anyone that has anything to contribute to there's a bunch of different communities. I think about the international activities exchange community as the one where a lot of these conversations would be taking place. Jasmine was referring to some resources that she had posted in the exchange not too long ago. The exchange is what has replaced our international activities group. It's now now for ACRO members, and there's a bunch of different communities that you can go and discuss. There's easy ways to follow all the conversations that you're having, ways to save documents. It's actually really helpful for having those conversations where you need to be able to look at something and refer back to it with a group of people where you're all trying to work on something. It's a nice resource that is available to ACRO members. And don't forget that ACRO membership has now been opened up to everyone at an institution. So if your institution is already an ACRO member and you don't have those ACRO member benefits, this is something that you can get signed up for at no additional cost if you're already a member. Don't forget, ACRO Edge is a product that is discounted for you when you are an ACRO member institution or have that membership in another fashion. Anywho, on the next page, what I've highlighted for you is I alluded to it just a little while ago that we're trying to do a better job of communicating how you can manage your Edge subscriptions. So those of you that are the Edge managers or the subscription contacts, you have a special level of privilege that you can use in the back end to assign who's going to be on your roster and to receive that annual invoice and make those edits and updates right online. On the left-hand side, you select subscriptions. You pick the item you wish to manage there on the right. You click that little blue link there. And on the next slide, you'll see what pops up. It's this page where you assign folks access to the subscription that you are editing right now. See at the top, it says that Edge subscription for 10 users. If you click a button on here, Jackie Walker, Jackie's the one that has access to Edge right now. Dan does not have any access to Edge right now. It's just click that button in the assigned column to give someone access, turn it on or off. They've got 6 out of those 10 individuals assigned. Remember, ACRO membership is unlimited, but an ACRO Edge subscription does have a limited number of roster spots that you can change an unlimited number of times throughout your subscription cycle. On the next page, we will just talk about the email that some of you have received when you renewed your Edge subscriptions. Even though this is designed for folks that have just now gotten an Edge subscription for the first time, we wanted to make sure that any experienced Edge users also had these videos highlighted for you. But that's really it. Just wanted to be sure that you knew a little bit more about how to utilize your Edge subscription. We noticed that those are some questions that we get sometimes. But what are the questions that we got today, Dave, here in the middle of this webinar? Anything exciting going on down in the chat? I'm going to highlight one more time for you the Gloria Nathanson Research Fund for International Education, where those of you that are doing research on projects, you might have ways to defray some of those expenses. But what are those questions, Dave?
Well, thanks for asking, Drew. I guess my request for theme music to accompany the Q&A section, it was lost in the mail, so we'll just have to go right into it. But I rescued one from the chat, which was the first one. We'll go in order here. Question asking about has anyone noticed the lack of availability or extreme delays in getting documents out of Iran, specifically I think Islamic Azad was mentioned. There has been a almost tenfold, I think, increase in the amount of money that it costs to get documents sent now in an effort to really slow down the exodus of people from university graduates in Iran. So I imagine that a lot of people are noticing that. But does anyone on the IESC or the panel have any information they want to add, or anyone in the audience for that matter to add into the chat? Somebody might have more to say on that one. If not, we'll go on.
Dave, this is Jasmine. Excuse me. I can add something to it. I think with Islamic Azad, I found kind of a backdoor way of contacting them, and it's to contact their international office, which I believe it's in Dubai. Although it's intended for their non-Iranian students who attend many of their campuses in the region, occasionally I've been able to get something from them. And they've kind of directed me to their Tehran-based campus. So people may want to kind of use that channel to seek assistance for verification. And it's called the International Unit of Azad University. I don't have their link available, but if you just do that, you'll find their degree verification portal.
Thanks a lot for that, Jasmine.
It's just, it's a hack. It sometimes works.
Okay. All right. The next question was answered by Shelby directly, I think, about where can a sample from Palestine be sent. But there is also a link on the EDGE website on wherever you go that will allow you to submit redacted documents, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true, Drew?
If you are on the page in question, say you navigate over to a Bachelor of Science, and you have a sample document, and we don't have a sample there in Palestine yet. There on the page, on the left-hand side, you're going to see that there's a button entitled Request an Update. And in that request an update, you can there's a way that you can upload the file directly, and that'll be reviewed so long as it is redacted, so that all personally identifiable information is gone. If the information is not redacted, we cannot even review it. It'll just get removed from the servers without review.
Thanks. Next, we have question about provisional certificate availability from University of Mumbai. I will come right out and say I was not aware that provisional certificates weren't being issued anymore, and that only passing certificates were. I don't have any personal knowledge, despite all the Indians I see, of not being able to get
Dave,
those.
let me jump in then.
Thanks, Robert.
What I heard was that autonomous colleges were given, and I don't know where it originated from. I presume the parent university or the affiliating university, but moved that task to the autonomous colleges, if they're autonomous. Now, I presume if they're not, that universities still do it, but the universities then only would issue a passing certificate, because now all that they're controlling until they award the degree, who knows how much longer later at convocation, all they can really do is release a passing certificate, because they control the exams and they know who passed and who didn't and all of that. So they'll gladly issue a passing certificate. But those of us that have come to know and love the provisional certificate are not happy with that. Certainly I'm not. And so I will hold out for a provisional certificate either from the college. I mean, passing certificate is okay until I get my provisional certificate. And then that way I'll move and act on that and not make them get me the ornate diploma a year or two down the road. but somebody else may have additional information.
Yeah, the autonomous colleges are allowed, and this is not just at the University of Mumbai, this is
Yeah. I meant to say that. Thank you,
yeah.
Shelby.
Yeah, no problem. Autonomous colleges are allowed to issue provisional certificates, but they can't issue the final diplomas. Unfortunately, we see a whole lot more affiliated colleges rather than autonomous colleges, and the affiliated colleges cannot issue a provisional certificate. And so I don't know why University of Mumbai decided to do that, unless it's because, you know, they have 200,000 graduates for every convocation and it's just too much work for them to do. But one of the things that we have advised students to do, if they're not able to get a provisional certificate from their university and their college is an affiliated college instead of an autonomous one, is to ask the university if they will confirm that the requirements have been met and the degree will be awarded. We have at a future date, and preferably if they know when that date will be, at least the year, put the year. We've had some limited success with that. So that might be an alternative if you can't get a provisional certificate itself from the University of Mumbai.
Thanks, Shelby. It seemed to me that it was almost pro forma for some of the autonomous colleges to issue a provisional certificate with the marks in just one fell swoop over the last few years. So that explains why the university isn't in those cases of the autonomous colleges. We move now to Ghana. The question is, has anybody solved the mystery of why there are so many provisional WAEC scores coming? Even you know, a couple of years back, people still aren't getting the official certificate for those exams. I'll open that up to anybody who wants to comment on it.
I hadn't actually noticed that there was that much of a delay for Ghana, because I do know that they had released provisional results for the, I guess it was the November, December tests in February earlier this year, because I saw a news release for that earlier this year. I haven't heard anything about there being a greater delay or a delay farther back. So I would be curious to know a little bit more about that myself. Have any of you guys seen that?
For an ACRO member, you could put that on the international activities community in the exchange. TISEP members could open it up to the gaggle. Robert has something maybe.
No, I unmuted and I thought about it, but I haven't, well, we don't handle, since September, we no longer handle undergraduate internationals, but I hadn't heard anything along these lines. And I've seen ones that are prior to 2022 without much trouble. So maybe it's something that's current and maybe short term, we hope.
This is Jasmine. I Googled it because I hadn't experienced this either, but it appears since this has been going on even from December 2023. And there's a lot of news articles about these extended delays from WIAC. WIAC is not explaining what the delays are, but students are very upset about it because it's also hindering their education, since official documentation is required for them to get into universities, whether in the country or overseas. So this delay is happening, but WIAC is not providing an explanation. And it's been going on. So this is an article from December 2023.
Thanks, Jasmine.
You're welcome.
This is Ghana only?
This is only for Ghana. Yeah, right now, this is the articles I'm seeing is from Ghana.
Yeah, there's an article from December that seems to indicate that they're holding on to the results because of alleged malpractice.
There you go.
So that might be why.
Mhm.
And they says they won't release the results until it's been determined whether or not there was malpractice.
Mhm.
So
Right,
that's certainly
so-
that, this is not happening and isn't going to be happening in Sierra Leone or Liberia or the Gambia.
Right, it doesn't appear so, but I could do another Google search and
Yeah.
we'll see if there's issues elsewhere.
All right, next we have kind of a perennial question regarding the American degree transfer programs in Malaysia for people who have completed O levels and are doing these programs in anticipation of transferring to the US. What do people do with students who have completed only 1 year of the American degree transfer program? Would anyone consider that to be the equivalent of a US high school diploma, or do they need to finish the whole shoot and match and do the second year? Robert.
I guess the first thing that I would say was, are we sure about GCSEs as the issue here, and not SPM, STPM, because that's what I would have expected to see. Now, as far as American degree transfer programs are concerned, you don't have to have as high a credential to get in as you would, say, University of Malaysia, or any degree granting institution in Malaysia. But if it were true British IGCSEs or something along those lines, then I obviously wouldn't have any trouble with that. I've already got my high school graduation. The question is, what credit to give from the American transfer program of whatever college. And so, but if it's a case of they've only done partially the Malaysian upper secondary system and then go to one of these American transfer programs, then I would have some trouble. The only thing I can liken it to is when for a while there, and I haven't seen it as much lately, Chinese students who were not interested in taking the Gaokao, were interested in coming to the United States to go to university, would be recruited by American community colleges to come to the American community college, not having completed senior middle school in China, and therefore 12th grade, and enter, and at graduation with an AA would be given both an AA and a high school diploma from the state of, it shall remain nameless, but it's in the West Coast, Upper West Coast. But the point is that I would look at those and I would go, wait a minute, you never graduated high school. So that's just not going to do. So you could look at it that same way, but I guess the real critical piece is what was the last Malaysian credential or high school credential they got before they entered this American transfer program, and to see then what they had and whether or not that meets your requirements for freshman admission.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Next question involves information on credential evaluation agencies besides WES and others. A good place to start for this information would be either NACES, which is the National Association of Credential Evaluation Services, or AICE, which is the Association of International Credential Evaluators. Those are two membership organizations that involve themselves in kind of quality control, and it's not a de facto licensor kind of thing, but those are the two organizations that people usually look to. You might ask your peers at other institutions who they use, so you can get some specific information as to how they like, whichever services they may be using. Some institutions use only one service, some use a number of services. And of course, if you use more than one service, you can potentially get into the situation where you're getting one answer for a student from, let's just say, India, for example, and another answer from a student from the same institution in India, from a different credential evaluation agency. So that's kind of a big question. We've talked.
Dave, I think Yuki's actual question is, transcript verification or
Yeah, that's what I thought
Yeah,
as
that's what
well.
I thought too.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I
and-
just,
Yeah.
And you know, Wes
I
provides
wrote it
that
down
specific
early
source.
on and I was going with what was in my mind. I didn't see that.
I mean, I think what you said, Dave, is still very useful.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to just add for the transcript, if it's transcript authentication, there are now a number of platforms, legitimate, recognized platforms that serve on behalf of universities that provide official transcripts at the behest of the candidates, the students. So if you're, let's say, dealing with a student from the UK, I'm just going to cite this off the top of my head. There's a platform called Grad Intelligence. If you're looking, receiving documents from Canadian students, there's MyCreds. So there's a number of these portals that exist that official transcripts are delivered directly to you at the request of your students. In terms of document verification, I will just speak from my company's perspective. We do work with one entity. They're based in the United Kingdom. They're called Qualifications Check. And these are for instances where the applicants say, I can't get documents from my university for whatever reason. We have them go through Qualifications Check that does the verification of the documents. And then they present us with an official statement from the institution verifying that these transcripts were valid or invalid. So these sort of entities do exist. So I'm hoping, Yuki, that was what you were looking for. If you need a list of these portals, I'll be happy to provide that. It's also listed on our website, but I'm sure others have suggestions as well. Shelby, Robert, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. We actually maintain in our office a document that we call the Electronic Verification Sources PDF, where we have lists by country, and sometimes it's also by level, so like secondary, tertiary, vocational, whatever, of known websites that are for verification or known points of contacts at institutions for verification purposes. If you happen to be a member of TISEP, you can access this information via the TISEP wiki. If you're not a member of TISEP, you're welcome to contact me, and I'll be happy to send you the latest copy. But that's what we do as well. Our students can also submit NACES or ACE member evaluation reports as well. So if they send in verified copies of the documents, the student doesn't have to do that themselves. We don't have to verify whatever the credential evaluation company has already put in, but the majority of our students will go through us. So we have to be able to do that or trust that the documents that they're sending in are valid. So I think that's what Yuki's asking. And if I'm wrong, please let me know.
I would just add that what UT has used for several years now, we're part of a pilot project with National Student Clearinghouse to get Chinese verifications through what used to be called CHESIC and CDGDC, but is now called CSSD, one entity. And we still require that of our admitted Chinese students, but that we haven't really gone outside of that. National Student Clearinghouse has been making noises about trying to do something similar with Mexico. And there was even talk of India, but I think they threw up their hands on India as just too massive and not able to do it. I'm not sure if they're still working with CEP in Mexico to continue something like that. But what Shelby you have sounds like that would be a godsend right there for our users.
Happy to share it. Public information.
All right, thanks everyone for stopping me before I blithely blathered on for another 5 minutes about credential evaluation, which can happen. Next question in order. We got one Nigerian question that I've rescued from the chat also to come. At the last webinar in February, Emily talked about a UK four-year Master of Engineering / Physics. Wasn't sure if that's going to be updated and revisited. The current advice remains unchanged. I imagine that that's in the hopper. It takes a while to get those things up yet. into Edge.
Dave, you know what? I think I'll be, if I didn't realize Emily was involved. So Natalie, thank you for that. Maybe I know Emily's incredibly busy these days, but maybe I'll get with her and see. This dates back to a debate. I won't say argument that Dale Goff and I often had. He was convinced that the Master of Engineering 4-year integrated program was a bachelor's comparable degree, because I think that the British actually say it's an undergraduate degree. But my understanding was, what I thought it was, and I need to go back in and look at this, but was you integrated master's program that would get you a bona fide, and I guess I'd call it level 7 on the UK qualifications framework, bona fide level 7 degree, a Master of Engineering. That if for some reason you got to year 3 and finished and decided, okay, I've had enough, or I ran out of money, or whatever, then you could take the Bachelor of Engineering as a consolation prize. And so tentatively, my feeling is that if it's a 4-year integrated master's degree of engineering or physics, I'm inclined to call it a U.S. master's degree. But let's be sure of that, even though the British may call it an undergraduate credential. And the reason they probably do that is because the pathway is normally undergraduate, and it's undergraduate for most of the curriculum until it gets to the final year. So I'll get together with Emily and see if we can, and anybody else that's interested on the IESC, and we'll see if we can't get to the bottom of that, especially if it's been hanging fire this long.
Okay, we got 2 more. This is going to be a tight squeeze. Do schools in Burma provide transcripts for only the last year of high school without grades for the previous years? Who's seeing a lot from Burma that they can answer what kind of documents they're seeing lately?
This is Jasmine. We see Burmese or documents from Myanmar, and they're usually their final exams. We don't see kind of year by year for their high school.
Okay, thanks, Jasmine. Moving on. This is about a 3-year med lab tech diploma from Nigeria. The 3-year vocational isn't on the ACRA website. I suspect that some of these might be issued at the national or even higher national diploma level in Nigeria. So you have to be careful. In Nigeria, there is some articulation between diplomas, and then even between higher national diploma and university in very prescribed fields. Robert,
it could also be from
NABTAB,
the Nigerian Association of Technical and whatever training. And I'm sort of up in the air about those. They do seem to be pretty vocational, especially for a tier 1 highly selective institution like UT. But I think the little bit I've looked at these, they do require senior secondary 3 and the in the WASSCE, so for entry. So that would imply they're on the right level. The question would be, is there any kind of like you said, is there any kind of articulation between NABTAB training facilities and universities or polytechnics where they can enter a degree program and get a degree in a short amount of time? That, I guess that's the open question.
Yeah, that's a fair question to ask, and if we see anything, I'll have that in mind.
But it does look like a credential that probably needs to be in Nigeria, in Edge, Nigeria.
Right. All right. That seems, if I haven't missed anything, to have wrapped up the questions, and it's just in time because it's 1 minute to go. Drew, take it away.
Hey, I told you guys earlier that when I came on and tried to tell everyone the incorrect date, you had to stop me. But I remember next month in April, where it's Thursday, April the 11th. It's the second Thursday But usually every other month, you'll see us on the third Thursday here. This time, though, come see us right after the annual meeting. Robert, Dave, Jasmine, Julia, Shelby, everybody. Velma. Thanks, y'all. Have a great one.